Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 5 greatest Chopin pianists. Oy vey, was this a project. Everybody plays Chopin. I mean, lots and lots and lots of Chopin. There's a Chopin competition. It's Chopin. Everything is Chopin. So how do we find the 5 greatest Chopin pianists? Well, I've modestly come up with my own list, and I have to say, just my usual fetch here. If you disagree with something on my list, I don't care. Make your own list. Don't whine about my list. Make your own. Yours is as valid as mine. The whole point is for us to come up with these lists of great pianists. But I will say one thing. I knew when we started this, one of the reasons I did 5 pianists and all this, that there has to be a certain amount of thought that goes into this. The idea was not to just have everybody say, oh, my favorite Chopin pianist is X because he played the barcarolle, and I really like the barcarolle. Well, that's not one of the 5 greatest Chopin pianists. This is not about who your favorite performer is in a particular work. This is about artists who have done a body of work in this composer. That means usually more than one disc, more than one work, consistency over time, general acclaim, if you're aware of that at all. There has to be more thought in that. I mean, I've been editing the comments rather heavily in this series so far because I knew when we even came up with it that we were just going to get everybody's life story. I just like so-and-so, or I saw this performance, it was wonderful. I mean, no, that's not what this is about. This is about trying to isolate a quality of interpretive excellence over time in specific artists and specific composers. And listen, if you're not there yet in your musical journey, that's okay. I mean, no one says you have to be. It's you'll get there if you get there, and you won't if you won't. It's not a crime. You could enjoy the discussion and try listening to some of the recommended pianists because you folks are brilliant when it comes to these things. That's why I like doing them. Really, really brilliant. You come up with stuff I don't know, things I've forgotten, stuff that you were really sharp and astute at pointing out. And I learn, we all learn, but we're not going to learn anything if it just becomes a free-for-all and everyone simply says, well, my favorite so-and-so is this. It's not what it's about. So I'm just throwing that out there and explaining why I've been, editing these comments rather heavily, because I really want it to be useful, especially for people who don't know the music as well as the people who do. So the 5 greatest Chopin pianists are, undoubtedly, without any question, Alfred Cortot, to begin with. Now, Alfred Cortot is a historical pianist. His best work was done in like the 20s and 30s, and that was recorded in somewhat dingy sound. But he was one of the first pianists, I think, who took Chopin seriously in the larger sense. That is, he recorded all the preludes, he recorded the etudes, he did these things in series as often as not, and aside from the fact that he was a brilliant musician with a glorious singing tone, which is essential in Chopin, that bel canto singing tone, the melodic element and harmonic awareness and all of these things, which you could hear. I mean, you can hear in some of these dingy sounding recordings. It's there. And he's a name that you have to know if you want to be serious about the history of piano playing in the 20th century, or it all, and in the history of the Chopin discography. So Cortot is definitely in there, and he did lots and lots of Chopin, and he was really, really good at it. So that's who I would start with. The same way I started with Schnabel and Beethoven. It's not going to be for everybody. I mean, for years and years and years, I really detested historical recordings just because the sound was so crappy, and I couldn't get past it. I really couldn't. And if you can't, I'm totally with you. I hear you. I sympathize. I understand. But by the same token, you can get past it. Once you know the music well enough, too, so that you know what it's supposed to sound like in better performances, then you can sort of hear what's going on in historical performances. It's difficult to do that without, sort of hallucinating and trying to imagine what's there when it really isn't. But it's doable. It's doable. And Cortot is a name. To hear just some of his Chopin is really special. So there's that. Next, Vladimir Ashkenazy. Now, Ashkenazy, he's a tremendous Chopin. His second sonata, I still think, is like the best thing ever. His etudes are fabulous. He was always heavily involved in Chopin's music. He recorded all of it, all of the piano music. He did. He made a complete set of the piano music, which was, still something of a rarity. There's a lot more of it now on period instruments and all that stuff. But basically, when he did it, there were very, very few competitors, and he did it at an exceptionally high level. If we're talking about consistency over time, then Ashkenazy absolutely has to be in the list. And he was one of those artists who was his own worst enemy because he just recorded so much, and so there was a tendency to downplay his significance and his achievement simply because it's very easy to say that people who are exceptionally prolific can't maintain high quality. And he was variable at certain repertoire, but he was very, very good at almost all of it. And his Chopin, I think, really was special. It's really, really splendid. So Ashkenazy definitely makes the list. Next, Claudio Arrau. Claudio Arrau is going to show up a lot here, I think. It's interesting, actually, because, he was so distinctive. He's one of the very few pianists, let's put it that way, I've said this before, who has an absolutely immediately recognizable tone, no matter what he was playing. Really kind of fascinating that way, number one. But number two, he was brilliant and intelligent and a very serious artist who I think, gave 100% really in just about everything he did. And his Chopin includes glorious recordings of the nocturnes and the preludes and the fantasy and all these pieces he did with exceptional care. Some people find him, for that reason, too heavy and too measured. But I think, especially in the nocturnes and what he was a glorious pianist. And he was selective in what he decided to record, but it showed him at his best. He really, really cared about his legacy, and it's reflected in his Chopin recordings. Then we get Ivan Moravec. Now, Moravec was like actually Arrau, a guy who had an incredibly beautiful sonority and a supernatural ability to sustain the long singing line. He was also very picky about records. Thank God we have what we have. He did all the nocturnes like Arrau, and his nocturnes are, for many, the reference edition. They are stunningly beautiful. The preludes as well, which he recorded twice, they are magnificent. The second sonata, he did selections of other pieces. He did a bunch of mazurkas. Usually he would take a pile of waltz or three and stuff like that. Really, really, each time he did Chopin, it was a special moment. It really was, because that was the way he was. He made special moments out of just about everything he played, but without, by the way, any hint of Arrau's sort of heaviness or darkness of timbre. His playing had great naturalness and ease. He never really even thought about the mechanics behind the playing. It was just this beautiful outpouring of velvety tone and melody, and it was marvelous in Chopin. However, if I got to pick one, this is not the however choice. These are all 5 co-equal great Chopin pianists. Artur Rubinstein, without a doubt. This is so easy. He wasn't the one easy thing on my list, really the easiest thing on my list. He didn't do all of Chopin, but he did almost all of Chopin. He was somebody who got better over time as well. His earlier Chopin recordings are full of that sort of traditional romantic rubato, and they're beautiful. But later on, he just basically found a sort of Zen-like center of where Chopin was as an artist, and his playing is incredibly incredibly effortless and natural. And I mean, in everything he did, I mean, the scherzos, the ballades, the etudes, the mazurkas. The mazurkas tend to be neglected a little bit because they're not, bigger works. They tend to be little gems. And he managed to play them with such a deliciously appropriate, free sense of rhythm and timing and accent. It's all just as natural can be. It sounds like he was composing the music as he plays it. He was an exceptional Chopin pianist, and nobody disagrees with that. I mean, there may be some contrarian out there who will say, "Oh gosh, Rubinstein was a joke." I mean, go ahead, try it. Your comment will be instantly deleted because it's just stupid. And I can deal with a lot of ranges of opinions, but stupid ones, no. So Rubinstein Chopin definitely has to be on anybody's short list. It just does. And if you don't know it, then get to know it. I mean, his polonaises are just have such swagger. I mean, he's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So there we have 5 absolutely greatest Chopin pianists. And like I said, if you have a list, and I'm sure you do, if you care about the piano, let's see your list as well. But just present your list. You don't have to worry about anyone else. It's yours. Treasure it, love it, argue in favor of it, convince us if it's necessary, in a couple of pithy sentences. Pith, please, pithy. We don't need an essay. But yeah, this is going to be fun. And we'll see. Probably everybody in the world is going to show up. But remember, artists who focused on the composer, who created a body of work. I can think of, 10 others who I could very easily have made a list of 5, but these were my 5 greatest. And I'm sorry that, other names aren't there, and I hope that you will include them. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.